What's up, everybody? This is Trinity Gamer 333 here today to bring you the next video in the Xenoverse 3 series videos. And for those of you that don't know or are new, this is a series of videos in which we talk about new ideas and implementations to add to the next installment in the Xenoverse franchise. And this is a collection of different ideas as well as from around the community as well as my own into what I like to call the Dragon Ball game to end all Dragon Ball games. And today we'll be talking about Part 3, Character Creation, Subpart 7, Transformations. And I will say that this video is going to take a little bit longer than normal because there's a lot to go through when it comes to stats and everything like that. So without further ado, let's begin. So first, we'll talk about the race-specific transformations. These are you transform from their base form into these different forms. Each has its own unique power. And we'll have the Saiyans, the humans, the Frieza Race, the Namekians, the Majins, and the androids. First, we'll start with the Saiyans. They will have Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3. Super Saiyan 1 will increase the physical attack power by 12% and the ki attack power by 8%. All of the stats will be increased by 10%. And then Super Saiyan 2 will increase physical attack power by 15% and ki attack power by 10%, with all of the stats being raised to 12%. Super Saiyan 3 will increase the physical attack power by 18%, ki attack power by 12%, and all other stats by 15%. However, because the stamina damage that Super Saiyan 3 does on your body, the stamina will be reduced by 5%. Next, we'll have Super Vegeta 1 and 2. Super Vegeta 1 will increase the ki attack power by 15% and the physical attack power by 10%. All other stats will increase by 12%. Super Vegeta 2 will increase the ki attack power by 17% and the physical attack power by 12% and all of their stats by 14%. And Super Vegeta 2 is the same as similar to Xenoverse 2, in which it raises the ki attack power, whereas the other Super Saiyan forms raise the physical attack power more. Then we'll have the Ozaru form, and I think this form should have a lot of the same stats as the giant Namekian that they had in Xenoverse 2, and should have some of the same movesets as well, just a little bit and more geared towards the Ozaru form. Then we'll have Ultra Super Saiyan, or Super Saiyan Grade 3, the buff version, so the speed will decrease by 10%, but the physical attack power will increase by 13%, and ki attack power will increase by 13% as well, while all other stats will be increased by 10%. So you want to still keep it below Super Saiyan 2, but it's just above Super Saiyan 1. So if you haven't unlocked Super Saiyan 2 yet, which also I might mention, I think you should have to unlock Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3, not just all three of them at once. So if you haven't unlocked Super Saiyan 2 yet, and you have Super Saiyan 1, Ultra Super Saiyan could be a good upgrade to the Super Saiyan 1 form until you unlock Super Saiyan 2. Then you have the Mastered Super Saiyan, which is even better than Ultra Super Saiyan. This is a Super Saiyan that has been mastered. The ki attack power should be increased by 14%, same with the physical attack power, and all of their stats will be increased by 12%. Now, it's still below that Super Saiyan 2 form, but it's at the same time, it's like almost right there. So once you unlock Super Saiyan 2, then you can just move on to that. But I just think that'd be kind of something that would be pretty cool to have. So then we have Super Saiyan 4. Then I think your physical attack power and ki attack power should all be increased by 20%, and all other stats should be increased by 18%, except I think your defense maybe should be decreased by 3% just to have a little bit more balance in the game as well. So now let's move on to the humans. We'll have the Max Power form, or Master Roshi's form. It's the buff form that the humans have that's like Master Roshi's form. You increase your physical attack power by 15%, your ki attack power by 13%, and all other stats by 10%. However, your speed does decrease by 5%. Then you have the Forearms transformation, which is the opposite, or is kind of on the flip side of the Max Power, in which you generate 4 arms, such as Tien Shinhan's form, and your physical attack power increases by 15%, and your ki attack power increases by 12%, and your speed increases by 12% as well. All other stats will increase by 10%, but to add that same balance, your stamina should still decrease by 5% as well. Then we have the Power Pole form. I think it should be the same as Xenoverse 2, and I think we should still keep this form in here just because it is kind of a unique transformation as well for the humans, and it could add a little bit more variety as well. And that's the whole point of this game, is a lot on variety, especially for your creative characters. Okay, so the Frieza Race now. We have final form, a complete redesign of the player's choosing from the first form, as I talked about in my Frieza Race video, in which you pick what the final form looks like. You increase all your stats by 10% and key attack power by 15%, and speed increases by 13%, while your defense decreases by 5%. Then we have the 100% form, a buffed up version of the final form that brings out 100% of the character's power. Increase your key attack, physical attack power by 18% and increases all stats by 15%, but your stamina should decrease by 5% just because of the toll it takes on your body. And you should also have different key levels to transform between final form and 100% form. Then we have the golden form. Oops, sorry guys. Then we have the golden form, a golden version of the final form, and a golden form should be in the slot that includes final form, so you can transform from different key levels, similar to Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3. And you increase all stats by 20% and speed and key attack power by 25%. Now, Namekians. We have the Fuse with the Warrior power-up. A power-up for the base form which increases all stats by 10% and increases your defense by 15%, because Namekians are solely based on defense. That's their stat. And then it should be a stronger looking form with that's a little bit more buff and a stronger looking aura. Then we have the Fuse with the Elder, a power up for base which increases all stats by 18% and increases defense by 20%. And this should be a more powerful looking form as well with a white powerful aura. And then we have the Giant Namekian, which should become giant, same as Xenoverse 2. I think they should keep all that the same. I really like that. Maybe increase the stats a little bit, but so let's move on to the Majins. Purification, all stats should be increased by 10% and speed increases by 15%. And now it is my belief that Super Buu was more powerful than Kid Buu, so that's why I'm making the Super Buu form more powerful than the Kid Buu form. So I think Purification is something you get first and then the Super Buu form after. The Super Majin should transform into Super Buu-like character, same as the final form for the Frieza clan, which you can choose what the super form looks like. All stats are increased by 15% and defense decreases by 5%. Attack increases by 20%. So your physical and key attack power should increase by 20%. Then we'll move on to the androids. Now we have the Cell Perfect form. This is a little bit different from an Android video. I actually ended up making two different transformations for both the sub races, the Android 17 and 18 type characters, and then as well as the Cell characters. This is picked the same way as the final form. Can choose what this form looks like, and all stats should be increased by 20%, while key attack power and speed should be increased by 23%. So similar to kind of the Frieza's race. Then Super Android form. This is picked the same way as the final form Frieza. Create the character and the Super Android form, but I think it should have a little bit less options. It's Cell's character, which you don't have the tail or the wings or the head type, but you can make it looking similar to the Super 17 or the full power Android 13 as well, or something entirely new, but just kind of those are a good basis for the character. And all stats should be increased by 20%, while physical attack power and speed should be increased by 23%. Now let's talk about the divine transformations for each of the races. So first we have Super Saiyan God. Super Saiyan God, the Super Saiyan God form should have the red base hair. So whatever your base hair looks like, it shouldn't spike up or anything like in a Super Saiyan form. It should just be red, and then have the fiery aura as well. Your stats increase, all stats increase by 20%, while your ki and your speed are increased by 25%. Then we have Super Saiyan Blue, the Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan form. Transformation, all stats should increase by 30%, while your attack increases by 33% and your ki increases by 32%. Then you have the Dragonfire form. And also for Super Saiyan Blue, I enjoyed it in Xenoverse 2, but I don't think that they should have the ki drain like it does. I think you should be able to stay in this form. I think all of these different divine forms should be able to be stayed in without any kind of drain or anything, just because it just takes away a little bit from the fun. You want to be able to stay in this form instead of focusing on it the entire fight. So the Dragonfire form, increase all stats by 30% and attack by 35%, and it adds the glowing dragon-like tattoos to the body, and the hair glows oranges, kind of like I talked about in my humans video for the character creation part. And it's kind of like the third picture on the top with Goku with those tattoos, something similar to like that, but have the hair orangish and different style tattoos. Then we have the Golden God form. A God Key version of the Golden form adds a different aura, increases all stats by 30%, and speed and attack speed the speed / attack speed are increased by 35%. So then we have the Divine Namek form, which increases all stats by 30% and defense by 35%, and they gain the glowing veins and Shenron-like appearance like I talked about in my Namekian video. Then we have the God Absorption. We have Sub-Transformation 1. This is for the Majins. The Defensive God with all stats increased by 30% and defense increases by 33%. Sub-Transformation 2. All Attack God. All stats increased by 30%. Attack increases by 33%. Sub-Transformation 3. The Speed God stat, which all stats increase by 30% and speed increases by 33%. Now, I don't think you should be able to flip in and out of these different forms in the fight. I think you should only be able to pick one, and that's the one you have to stick with, or whatever you guys may think. If you think you should be able to switch in between the forms, then to maybe add a little bit more balance depending on who you're fighting, but at the same time you should figure out that kind of before you start fighting them, but that's just kind of my idea. Then we have the Divine Perfect or the Divine Super Android form. This is the android's Divine form. All stats are increased by 32%, and for all of these forms you have to have God Key equipped, and I will talk about God Key in actually my next video in which we talk about the different types of key. Okay, now let's go on to transformations and power-ups for all the different races. So these transformations can be utilized by any race at any time. They have their own unique set of abilities, and there are more transformations to add more of a growth pattern to your create a character to develop your own story. So first we'll start with the transformation power-up list with Kaioken. I think you should have Kaioken times 1 all the way with times 2, 3, 4, 10, and 20. And I'll talk about each of those here. So times 1 should increase all stats by 2%. And it takes 0 bars of ki to activate. But there is a 5% stamina drain. So it drains your stamina at a 5% rate, I guess, based on how the Kaioken drained your stamina in Xenoverse 2. I think it'd be 5%, kind of like that. That could be something the developers could figure out. 2 times should be increase all stats by 4%, and it takes 1 bar of ki, and there's a 10% stamina drain. 3 times should be increase all stats by 6%, 2 bars of ki to do it, and then 20% stamina drain. Then 4 times should increase all stats by 8%. Then there should take 3 bars of ki to activate with a 30% stamina drain. Then we have time 10, which increases all stats by 15%, and it has 4 bars of ki with a 40% stamina drain. Then you have times 20, which increases all stats by 20%, and it should take 5 bars of ki, and your ki should drain 50%. And it should have a 50% stamina drain. Now let's move on to the next transformations. You should have the Ultra Divine Water transformation. This is the transformation, well, not necessarily transformation, more of a power-up that Goku got whenever he drank the Ultra Divine Water right before he faced off against King Piccolo, I believe it was. And I think this should be one of the first transformations you really get, since it's kind of one of the first power-ups that Goku got as well, and it should add a more powerful looking aura and increase all stats by 5%. And now I'm saying that there should be different auras for all these transformations, and I want you guys to understand that it should bring about a different aura, because it's hard to tell if you're really in that transformed state without a different kind of looking aura. Because if it just powered you up and you didn't have a different type of aura, it wouldn't really show the power up or transformation necessarily. Kind of like how Kaioken has its own reddish aura. I think that should be added to a lot of these transformations to give them a more unique look as well. So a lot of it's about looks as well. You want to have the most creative looking character, or the most or the strongest looking character. So that's where I talk about aura, and I will even talk about that in a separate video as well. So now we should have the Fruit from the Tree of Might. And I know this isn't necessarily a transformation, but it is a power-up. And I think it would be kind of cool to have that instead of a move like it was in Xenoverse 2. It should be, instead of a super attack, it should be a transformation, in which you eat from the fruit to gain tremendous strength, and it'll increase all stats by 10% and your attack power, ki, and physical by 15%. Now we should have Potential Unleashed. this has got to be different from Xenoverse 2, and I think it should be more similar to the power-up that Krillin and Gohan got from the Grand Elder on Namek during the Frieza saga, and this should add a more powerful-looking aura as well, and all stats should be increased by 12%, and it should be a brighter and stronger-looking aura. Then we have Pure Anger. I think that this should be something that could be added because, in a lot of the Dragon Ball shows, anger is a pinnacle of power. If you have somebody who gets enraged or just has this burst of anger, you see them become more powerful. So I think this would be kind of a cool transformation, and this should be an eruption of pure anger to increase all stats by 15%. Then we have the Mystic/Ultimate form. This should be the most powerful form aside from maybe Kaioken times 20, but the difference between those two is that this one doesn't have a stamina drain. So this is the most powerful form aside from the divine forms. So this should be the same as Xenoverse 2's Potential Unleashed, except add more of a white aura and more of a power boost, in which I think it should boost all your stats by 20%. So now let's move on to something a little bit new, and something that I think a lot of people would really enjoy, the God of Destruction transformation. Now this is where you should become the ultimate force of nature, the pinnacle of transformations. It should increase all your stats by 40%, so the most powerful form there to activate it, you must have a full ki and full stamina bar to activate. So basically right at the beginning of the battle, and it should give the user a purplish aura and grant them the new ultimate attack, Hakai, which I think that should do the most damage in the entire game out of any ultimate attack. And it should increase their ki and stamina, to their maximum potential. So when they activate this form, if you can have a maximum of 10 ki bars, but you only have 5, it should go all the way to 10 ki bars. And same with stamina. If you only have 5 and it goes to 10, it should go all the way to 10. Now, I think that you should be able to almost be at any level to be able to activate this. But, so if you only have 5 ki bars and you only have 3 stamina bars, as long as they're all full, you should be able to activate this form. But there is a downside, and I'll talk about why lower stuff to activate it isn't necessarily better. So the downside is it drains your stamina slowly, sort of how Super Saiyan Blue and Xenoverse 2 drained your ki slowly, and sort of how Kaioken will drain your stamina. It should drain your stamina slowly, and once it's completely drained, you should lose the form. Same with Super Saiyan Blue and Kaioken. But and then to reactivate it, you must have full stamina and a ki bar and full ki bar to activate. So the great thing is it increases all your stats by 40%, and then it gives you the ultimate attack Hakai. But the bad thing is you're only limited to the time you can use it. And I think also to get it to be gained, you should only be able to get it after unlocking all transformations for all other races and all the transformations as well, like the Ultra Divine Water and everything. And you have to train with Whis at least 10 times to be able to gain it. So it's a form that is extremely powerful and can really do a lot of damage if you activate it. But there is a lot of downsides to it, like having to have a full ki bar and full stamina bar. And there's also the downside of the stamina slowly draining and it deactivating once the stamina is drained. But that's why I said that it should raise your ki to its maximum potential. So then it gives you quite a while to use that form. So, I guess it would be better if you had a lower stamina bar. But at the same time, I don't know. The developers could figure out how to balance this. This is just kind of my ideas that they could bring about through it. But at the same time, I think it should be very hard to acquire, and it should look similar to Toppo's form, in which he gained that purplish aura. You bulk up a lot, and you get some sort of tattoo, I guess he has, or something like that. But just something very God of Destruction looking. So I think that could be a cool new form to add into the game as well. Now let's talk about stackable transformations. Now these are the transformations in which you can actually pick in the transformation slot, and it'll say, like, for example, Kaioken / Super Saiyan, in which you can stack Kaioken with Super Saiyan. So These transformations will have separate transformation that lists both of the transformations, and it'll have a slash in between them, and they come with the upsides and downsides to both types. So these would include Kaioken times 1, times 2, and times 10 for Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan Blue, Final Form, Golden God Form, Divine Namekian, Dragonfire Form, Perfect Form, Divine Perfect Form, Super Android Form, Super Buu Form, and God Absorption Form. And now I'm saying put these with all the God forms because then that balances out instead of just Saiyans getting this and with their Super Saiyan Blue, in which they would be extremely powerful. And I think that it should balance it out to the point where all the different divine forms should be able to activate this power as well. Now, this takes more key bars to activate the Kaioken. So an example would be Super Saiyan Blue would still have its Super Saiyan God predecessor, and it just takes a certain amount of key bars. Super Saiyan God can be activated after 3 bars, then Super Saiyan Blue after 4, but Kaioken times 10 would be able to be activated after, let's say, instead of 5, I put 5 in there, let's say like 6 maybe, or 7, because then you can have Kaioken times 2 activated or whatever, or even do times 10 after 5, and it just does the stamina drain a little bit faster. Again, this is something developers can work with. These are just my ideas I'm throwing out there, so if you guys have any other ideas, feel free to share them. Then Kaioken times 1 adds 2% to the current form and all stats. So for example, when I said Super Saiyan, I can't remember exactly the stats, Super Saiyan, let's say Blue for example, increases all stats by 30%, and then Ki by 32%, and I think it was physical attack power by 33%. I think that it should add 2% to all those. So all stats would be increased by 32%. Key attack power would be at 35%, and Ki would be at 32%. Now, Kaioken times 2 would add 4% to those, and then Kaioken times 10 would add 8% to those. Now I'm saying 8% because most of the transformations then at that point would be equal to the God of Destruction transformation. If you added 8% or even greater, but it would drain the stamina the same as Kaioken would. So after the stamina is drained, then ultimately you would be out of that form. It would kick you out of the Kaioken form as well as the Super Saiyan Blue form, and you would be back to base completely. So it'd be similar to the God of Destruction form as well. But at the same time, you wouldn't also get the ultimate attack Hakai, which with Hakai, I'll go back a little bit. I think it should be a move that would automatically bring the opponent down. If it hits, would bring the opponent down to 1 bar of health left no matter what. But if they only had 1 bar, then it would pretty much kill them. So just an idea for stackable transformations. But also there can be more. You can have Pure Anger stackable with Super Saiyan 1 and 2. Max power form for the humans, 4 arms transformation, and then fuse with the warrior form, and then purification. And I'm not adding in the Frieza or Android races just because I think that they have a lot of options going with them already as is, but the humans and the Majins don't as much. But Super Saiyans, you need to have some kind of pure anger with that, because you saw Vegeta whenever Beerus slapped Bulma, how angry he got in his Super Saiyan 2 form, where it even put him above Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And I just think that'd be kind of cool. And it adds 5% to all the stats mixed with the form. So, if you haven't even gotten your divine form yet, but you want to use your max power form as a human, and you want to add a little bit more power to it, you stack it with the pure anger form. And now, at the same time as this, I think the pure anger form, if you mix it and you activate pure anger, I think it should be limited. I don't know how you would limit it, but maybe on a set timer for 30 seconds. Because, the pure anger doesn't last for an entire fight. So I think maybe limit it to like 30 seconds, and then you just stay in the transform formed, such as the Super Saiyan 1 and 2. And then to reactivate the pure anger form, you just have to go back into the the transformation options and just reactivate it, kind of. So just something similar to that effect. And then now we should have the fruit from the tree of might. I think that'd be kind of something cool to stack with the different transformations, and you could stack it with the final form, the super android / perfect form, and the super boo form as well. And I think that just would be kind of cool. Don't have it with Saiyans, because I mean, yeah, I know Turles has it, but Saiyans already have a lot as is. So give the Frieza race just one more thing along with this the android race and the Majin's race as well. Then it should add 3% to all stats, but 8% to all key and physical attack powers for each of those different transformations. So now, how do you acquire all these transformations? I think they should be acquired through different trainings. So all those, if you look at my training videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. Then the different missions and parallel quests as well. And then some can only be learned from trainers and require special abilities, such as the use of the God forms. So you can only learn them from the Whis training and all that stuff. And then, so if you guys enjoyed, go ahead and subscribe to me at TrinityGamer333 and leave a like and a comment and share your ideas, please. I would love to hear your ideas on this video. And next video will be part 3, character creation, sub part 8, the key types. And this is where I'll really talk about a lot about God key and everything like that. So until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching and have a wonderful day.